Last month we saw some roster changes in both the Jade Dragons and the Solar Scarabs, with them essentially just switching junglers. Sam for Soccer 2 went to the Solar Scarabs, and Scream went to the Jade Dragons. It seems, well, for the Dragons at least, that this was successful, as they ended up winning the Smite Summer Masters tournament for $200,000. Following this tournament, there were a few more roster change announcements. Yarkour announced he was leaving the Atlantis Leviathans, Inbound announced he was leaving the Solar Scarabs, and Netrioid announced he was leaving the Camelot Kings. I'm gonna get the Netrioid announcement out of the way immediately, as I genuinely believe this one was a troll. I do not think Netrioid is actually leaving the Kings, and this is due to follow-up tweets from teammates saying the same thing, as well as popular members in the Smite community also believing the same thing. It's also worth noting that Netrioid hasn't changed his Twitter bio and still states he plays for the Kings, while Bobby's and Yark's have changed. The other two are confirmed to be legitimate, and that's what this video is going to focus on. We'll look at why Jarcorrr and Inbound left, as well as what the future could hold for them and their former teams. We'll start with Jarcorrr because it was announced first. At around 7:45 p.m. on August 13th, Jarcorrr tweeted that he was leaving the Leviathans. Translated from Spanish, I wanted to make a twit longer, but the truth is that it is better to just summarize it. I am no longer in the Atlantis Leviathans as a solo laner. The decision was made to look for a new player, and that is why I am looking for a team in any role for the rest of the year. DM's open, don't troll. Two of his teammates also commented. Rongyu sang, translated from Spanish, the reason why Yarkour is expelled from the team is because of personal problems that happened and unfortunately affect the team, not due to lack of skill, etc. He is a great player and we wish him the best in the future. Shinto also commented saying, the reason we decided to remove Jarcorrr from the team was because of personal issues between him and the team, not performance in-game. We think this is the best for the team. Wish him the best for the future. As of making this video, this is really all we have to go off of. There just isn't really a lot of information outside of these tweets. As with any changes happening within a professional Smite team, they aren't required or even expected to give details. This is their drama, and it's completely okay if they wish to be as vague as possible. Both Shinto and Rongyu expressed that Jarcorrr was kicked due to personal issues with him and his team and not anything performance related. This could mean a variety of things. It could range to consistent bickering within the team, or it could be a lot deeper. Maybe something extremely personal is happening in Jarkorr's life outside of Smite and it's affecting his attitude. I truly hope it's not something very deep and Jarcorrr ends up okay. But again, we won't know until more information is released. None of the Leviathans have streamed since the announcement, which is where I got most of my information in the last SPL video. The only person that I've seen from the Leviathan stream and talk about it to an extent has been Zapman, but all he really said was that Jarcorrr leaving wasn't supposed to be announced this early.
There's a month and a half before the next split, bro. things just happened early. Well, things weren't supposed to be announced so quickly, but one thing leads to another.
Rongyu also went live a few times, but I wasn't there for his streams and his VODs can only be viewed if you're a subscriber. Judging by how protective Zapman was of information, I highly doubt there was any useful info in the live stream. Finally, if something big was said, it would have most likely been tweeted by now. And there really isn't much else to say about the situation aside from speculation about who their new solo laner might be, as well as where Jarcorrr will end up. When discussing speculation, I'm going to make the assumption that there won't be anybody currently on the team swapping roles. I've seen a lot of comments theorizing just that. Like, for example, I saw one saying, what if Zapman went to jungle, Panatom went to solo, and then they picked up a new ADC. If I were to take role swapping into consideration, there are thousands of different possibilities, and this video would be an hour long. That being said, outside of the Leviathans, it is entirely possible and reasonable that Jarcorrr could move to a different role. He previously played ADC, and if I can give my opinion for a second, Jarcorrr is probably one of the few players that can swap to literally any of the 5 roles and still find success. He's just that good at the game. I'm going to knock off 2 candidates right off the bat that I've seen people theorize that might go to the Leviathans. Some have said Julio could replace him, but that's extremely unlikely as he left on bad terms with Hi-Rez and is still indefinitely banned, and his Smite account is permanently banned. Some have also said Deathwalker could be their solo, given his performance at the Masters tournament, although I don't think he'll join even if given the opportunity. This is because Deathwalker has previously said that he wasn't particularly interested in relocating to the United States. I don't have a source on this, but I did ask around and that is pretty much what people said. Speaking of Deathwalker, not too long ago, he went live on Twitch and gave out some even more information. He said Shinto was talking to him while intoxicated and expressed he wanted to team with Deathwalker, although it wasn't an official invitation. He then proceeded to say how the Olympus Bolts did officially invite him.
Shinto was like drunk talking to me, like how he wants me on the team and whatnot. But they never like officially invited me or anything. The team that did officially actually invite me was the Bolts instead. Now you can also kind of link the domino here. You know, I'm spoiling it a little bit.
It doesn't take a genius to figure out that if this were true, then Haddix was released from the Olympus Bolts and will therefore need a new team. I want to emphasize that there is a slight chance Deathwalker isn't telling the whole truth, but I don't really have reason to believe he's lying. Assuming it's true, I'm just going to predict that Yarkour and Haddix are swapping teams. Haddix goes to the Leviathans, and Yarkour goes to the Olympus Bolts. It wouldn't make sense for the top teams to part ways with their solos, and I also believe the other teams are seeing significant improvement. The Bolts have been doing fairly well up until this Masters tournament where they placed 5th. There's also a 4 to 5 week break, and I don't think it's too far of a stretch to assume they might want to make some changes. I also think based on Season 9 SPL performance, Haddix and Yarkour have performed pretty similarly. Finally, I believe what Deathwalker said on his livestream is true, and the Bolts did ask him to join. If it were true, the Bolts would need a good solo laner, and as I believe Haddix and Yarkour are similar in skill, it'd make the most sense for them to just simply swap teams. As I said earlier, there's always the chance that he's lying or not telling the whole truth, although I don't really believe he's lying. A day after Yarkour announced he was leaving the Leviathans, Inbound also announced he was leaving the Solar Scarabs. From his Twitter, probably won't be playing on the Scarabs Phase 3. I'll be looking for a team for Phase 3, but we will see what the future holds. As always, I'll be streaming mornings daily, except Sunday. I've only seen Inbound and Sam for Soccer comment about the changes on stream, so we'll start with Inbound. He was extremely vague, but we were able to get some information. He hasn't formally been kicked yet, but he was told that the Scarabs were going to try out new supports. He then said that even if they decide to keep him, he doesn't think he'd want to stay on the roster, although there's still a small chance.
Did you get kicked or did you leave? Officially it was neither. They just said they're going to try out other supports. So, I mean, it's kind of kicking, but I don't think I'm going to play with them anyway. Even if they wouldn't want to, or if they would want to play with me again, I don't think I would. So no more Bobby being Scarab support. I mean, there's a small chance I still am, but not holding out for it or anything.
Sam for Soccer also went live and emphasized that he wasn't sure how much he wanted to discuss the situation. He said he wasn't sure of an exact reason why the call was made to drop Bobby, but they thought a change would be good in general. He reiterated the Scarabs lost to an SEC team twice, and that just isn't a good sign. He also acknowledged that he's new on the team, but still stood by his opinion. He also repeated what Inbound said earlier by saying they want to try out new people to see if it makes a difference. Finally, he said the change isn't guaranteed and he doesn't know who they'll get if a change is made.
How's the comment to drop Inbound? I mean, I'm not really like, I don't know how much stuff I want to talk about in general, but I mean, basically, like, we just kind of thought a change would be good in general. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the same team lost to like SML twice, and in general, yeah. Even though I'm like a new player and stuff, I think it's just not the best signs. To be fair, like, we should at least want to try people out and see if it make a difference. Yeah, that's what we said to Bobby, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's, I don't know if it's like guaranteed necessarily, but I think it kind of is at this point. But yeah, I can't say like who we're thinking of getting or who we're gonna get. That is not for me to say. Although I wish I could, but I like talk about that stuff openly too.
When it comes to speculation, I'm really not that confident. It seems that most of the teams are comfortable with their current supports, but it could be Hurrywind or Rotwind. Hurrywind has still been grinding support since the start of Season 9 and had success during the play-ins tournament, with his team placing 3rd, just outside of reach for an SPL slot. He also has previous SPL experience from Seasons 7 and 8. Another contender could be Rotwind, who was kind of a fan favorite during the SEC as well as the Masters tournament. He was consistently talked about for some of his support plays. Even with that in consideration, I'm not really confident in who it might be. There just isn't a lot of public information about the roster changes and there are just a ton of variables to consider. As always, we'll just have to wait for more information. There is one other person that I haven't talked about that could be a candidate for both teams. This person is Baskin. Baskin tweeted a video where he picked up a mouse out of a drawer, and people interpreted this as him potentially coming back to the SPL. For those that don't know, he was one of the most loved players back when he played in SPL. The last time he played was on E United in Season 7, playing in solo, and I can't emphasize enough how much he was loved and regarded as one of the best players in the entire game. It was also widely believed that Baskin could play any role in the game and easily be top 2 in that role. People legitimately thought that if there was a team of 5 Baskins, that would be the best team in the SPL forever. Nobody would be able to beat that team. Assuming Baskin is not trolling and he is coming back, I don't think he'd join the Levi's or the Scarabs. Due to what Deathwalker said on stream, I firmly believe that Haddix and Yarkour are swapping teams, and I just don't see why he'd want to join the Scarabs as a support. What this says to me is that his video is either a troll or that there are other potential roster changes that may happen. If that is the case, then I'll most likely make a follow-up video. Unfortunately, that's all there really is to say about the roster changes so far. I wish there was more information I could present, but there just isn't. I do want to discuss a few things before ending the video. If this is your first, hell, or even second year watching SPL, then I can understand why roster changes might come as a shock to everybody. But looking at the context of there being a month-and-a-half break before any more professional matches, it doesn't really surprise me. Unless there are more changes, these are fairly mild compared to what we've seen in previous seasons when it comes to roster changes as a concept. Although I can understand why people were shocked to see at least Yarkour leave, as Yarkour was the previous Season 8 World's MVP, and I don't think anyone can say that he's played bad at all in Season 9. Personally, I was surprised to see Bobby go, but I could see why people weren't surprised. Personally, that kind of fucks me, because Inbound and Scream were 2 of my favorite players. Scream swapped teams, and we're still not sure where Bobby will go, but I'll still support them regardless of where they end up. I just wish everyone the best that is impacted by this. In my previous video about SPL, I said this. Secondly, regardless of your opinion on the entire situation, this is good for the league. And I still stand by that statement. There were some disagreements, but overall, I don't see how any kind of drama can deter people away from the league. I understand if you are cheering for 1 or 2 specific players and they leave, then yes, that'll deter you from watching. But I believe the amount of people suddenly paying attention to the league outweighs the few that might leave. Again, I'm just glad the league is getting more attention than usual. Thank you all for watching. This has been Black Eye, and I'll see you in the next video.
Sell the clowns around it, look like circus show. Like, this is not the album either, these are just